Well, howdy gamers, and welcome to the next devlog. So I was finally able to do a playtest of Alpha 4, which turned out pretty good. The main thing since Alpha 2/3, which from a systems level were identical, that I changed up how items and getting skills worked, in addition to reworking a lot of the character abilities, at least for Drow and Marcy. Previously, items would give 2 skills, and those skills would be the same no matter which hero was using the item. Now items give a skill that is based on both their type and which hero is holding it. So the way that Marcy uses an axe is going to be different than Axe, or punching in the big guy. And I think overall this is going to be much better. Doesn't mean there has to be a bit more consideration for which skills each character has, to help reinforce their identity or stuff like that. But overall, I do like the feel of it a lot, and the people playtesting seem to like it too. I think it's much easier for people to wrap their head around just one skill being different for each weapon, or at least that was the case for me. And when we had games going, they actually were pretty fun, which I really appreciated because it's been really hard to try playing my game, and so finally being able to play it and it being pretty fun was pretty cool. But it's not without its issues. One of the biggest issues that we were having was that there's actually not enough stuff on the map. A lot of people had the experience that, it was just really hard to craft stuff. And actually the first game that we played in that session, I wasn't actually able to craft anything because I was, running, from my starting zone to the next zone. And I just couldn't find anything just because everything had already been gobbled up. And another thing too was that the fire, I think, starts going across the map just a little bit too soon. So probably going to add a delay for that. Definitely going to add more stuff to the map if I don't end up redoing the map soon anyways. And other than that, and there were a little bit of issues with the UI, specifically the crafting tree is straightforward, but it's hard to read when you're in the middle of the game and you're trying to do things fast. It is not very good to read at a glance. And so that was a pretty real complaint that I also experienced some myself. For whatever reason, I decided to use text for the actual items names and then pictures for their components. But that's kind of hard to read at a glance because you need to know the actual name of the item you want, among other things. And another thing too was that some people were complaining that their map was kind of getting stuck open, not because it couldn't be closed, but because there's a button to open the map in the bottom left. There's no hotkeys for it right now, which is probably part of the issue. But the thing is if you open that up and then all of a sudden you start getting attacked by someone, it is much harder to calmly move your mouse over to the bottom left and click the button and close it. And it would be much better if people could just click or press a button or do something that is fast and easy to do to close the map so they can see what the heck is going on. And other than that, I don't think we really had any major balance issues other than Jeffrey's abilities probably dealing too much damage with his R in particular, probably dealing way too much damage than it needs to. Although I'm also not entirely sure if that wasn't maybe partly to do with crafting being difficult, because there's a lot of items that add extra HP, and there's also an accessory that adds a lot of durability because it adds both a good amount of flat HP and a good amount of percentage HP. But in addition to people, myself included, having issues just getting stuff crafted, it's also the only accessory to require 3 components to craft. I remember trying to build it in most of the games that I was playing, but I don't think I ever actually did once just because of the item scarcity issues. And so in addition to just reworking the map and adding more items, another thing I'm thinking I'll probably do is actually simplify the crafting system a little bit. Because there's a few problems I think it'll solve. One is that, it'll make things a little simpler, which, generally pretty good, just so the game's easier to understand all that type of stuff. And the main way for that is just removing tiers for items. I think I'll still keep like Jeff's first spell and some of the other items that were like, tier 1 items, but make them just not crafted in anything and have kind of worse stats compared to the items that are currently tier 2, but I'll, just make regular items. And that way I can also give characters a starting weapon, because part of the issue I had with giving a starting weapon, because I was originally going to do that, is that it meant that if certain characters started in certain zones, they could just basically start with a tier 2 finished weapon, because you just add a component to the starting item and it becomes the final weapon. So that would help solve that issue as well. Another thing that it would let me do too is, assuming that I keep it to 2 components per item, is that I could actually change the map UI to show like what is buildable going between zones. So instead of just showing, hey, these components are in these zones, I could show, hey, if you get the stuff from the top zone and the right zone, you can actually build like these 2 or 3 things. Or if you go from the right zone to the bottom zone, you can actually build these 2 things. And I think that will be much more useful in game for people to trying to figure out, okay, like where do I need to go to craft things? And like, if I go to these zones, like what can I make? And it should be pretty easy to make that like infographic too. So that'll be it for this devlog. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.